March 2nd is not an ordinary date. It is not just another square on the calendar. In the spirit, this day hath been marked, sealed, and highlighted with divine urgency. And I need you to listen carefully, because what is being revealed right now concerns you personally. This is a prophetic announcement. March 2nd prophecy. I, Archangel Michael, have seen the contract the enemy signed against you. I am burning it with holy fire right now. Open this to see your new life. These are not casual words. They are a declaration from the heavenly realm. Something was written about you in secret. Something was drafted in darkness, signed in opposition, and aimed at your destiny. But heaven has intervened. There hath been a contract, an agreement formed in the unseen realm, crafted to limit you, delay you, and discourage you. You may not have seen it with your physical eyes, but you have felt its effects. The unexplained resistance. The doors that almost opened but then shut without warning. The fatigue that came without reason. The opportunities that slipped through your hands at the last moment. These were not coincidences. They were symptoms of something operating behind the scenes. And on this very day, March 2nd, a shift has taken place. Archangel Michael, the great defender and warrior assigned to guard the people of God, has stepped into the courtroom of the Spirit. He has examined the document that carried accusations, limitations, and strategic attacks against your future. He has seen the clauses written in fear. He has read the lines crafted in deception. He has identified every signature that tried to authorize hardship over your life. And this is the shocking revelation: that contract is no longer hidden. It is no longer protected. It has been exposed under divine light. You may be wondering why now? Why March 2nd? Because timing in the Spirit is precise. There are moments when heaven moves quietly, and there are moments when heaven moves publicly. This is a public moment in the unseen realm. The enemy believed that what was signed against you would remain active for a long season. There was an expectation that you would continue fighting invisible battles without ever knowing their source. But heaven decided that enough is enough. The resistance you have endured has reached its expiration point. This message has found you for a reason. Out of all the voices you could be hearing, out of all the distractions competing for your attention, this one pierced through. That is not accidental. It means you are directly connected to this prophetic word. Something in your spirit recognized the urgency. Something inside you said, "This is about me." And you are right. Because while you were trying to understand why things felt blocked, why progress seemed delayed, why certain relationships shifted without explanation, a contract was operating in the background. But today, the narrative changes. The fire of holy judgment is not symbolic in this moment. It is active. Archangel Michael is not observing from a distance. He is engaging. The contract that carried accusations against your calling is being lifted from the table of the adversary. The pages that once carried your name under restriction are trembling. The ink that sealed it is losing its authority. There is movement in the spirit realm right now. A divine interruption is unfolding, and you are standing at the edge of a transition. This is why this prophecy cannot be ignored. When heaven announces intervention, it signals a turning point. There are seasons of endurance, and there are seasons of breakthrough. March 2nd marks the boundary line between what was and what is about to be. The enemy believed the contract would define your story. It was designed to slow your growth, to plant doubt in your mind, to create cycles you could not escape. But what was signed in darkness cannot survive the light of holy fire. The urgency you feel is confirmation. There is a stirring in your spirit because something is shifting in your favor. The weight that has been pressing on you is not meant to follow you into your next chapter. The delay is not permanent. The limitations are not final. What was written against you is being reviewed by a higher authority. And as the flames begin to rise, the power of that contract weakens. This is not just about cancellation. It is about transformation. Because when a contract is burned in the spirit, it does more than remove restriction. It clears space for something new to be written. That is why the title declares, "Open this to see your new life." The burning is happening now, but the revelation of your new life follows immediately after. You are not just being rescued from something. You are being positioned for something greater. March 2nd will not be remembered as a day of loss. It will be remembered as the day heaven stepped in. The day the hidden agreement was exposed. The day Archangel Michael declared that what was signed against you would not stand. This is your moment of divine interruption. This is your announcement of reversal. And this is only the beginning of what is about to unfold. Now that the announcement has been made, you need to understand what this contract truly represents. When the title declares, March 2nd Prophecy, I, Archangel Michael, have seen the contract the enemy signed against you. I am burning it with holy fire right now. Open this to see your new life. It is revealing something deeper than a single event. This contract was not written on paper as humans understand it. It was formed through moments of vulnerability, seasons of weakness, and words spoken in pain. It was drafted through discouragement, reinforced by fear, and sealed by agreement with lies you did not even realize you were accepting. In the spiritual realm, contracts are about access and authorization. The enemy cannot simply invade without strategy. He looks for legal ground. He searches for moments when you doubt your identity, when you question your worth, when you speak defeat over your own future. Every time you said, "Maybe this is just my fate," or "Nothing ever works for me," those statements became potential clauses. Every time fear convinced you that you would never break free, that belief became a signature line. And slowly, a document was being assembled. This is why certain patterns felt repetitive. You prayed, yet delays continued. You tried to step forward, yet something invisible seemed to push you back. Opportunities appeared promising, but at the last second, they dissolved. Relationships that should have flourished became strained without clear cause. It felt as if you were moving through life with resistance attached to you. That resistance was not random. It was organized. It was calculated. It was rooted in a spiritual agreement designed to keep you circling instead of ascending. But here is what changes everything. Heaven monitors what darkness attempts to establish. Nothing is hidden from divine sight. When the title says Archangel Michael has seen the contract, it means the strategies against you have been exposed. Every accusation written against your destiny has been reviewed. Every false claim over your calling has been examined. The enemy may operate in secrecy, but he does not operate beyond accountability. You may be asking yourself, how did this contract gain strength? Often it grows through trauma. A betrayal that made you guard your heart too tightly. A failure that convinced you to lower your expectations. A disappointment that whispered, "Do not try again." These moments can become open doors when they are not healed. The enemy uses pain as ink and doubt as a pen. He attempts to rewrite your identity through your wounds. And without realizing it, you begin to live beneath your true assignment. Yet March 2nd marks the interruption of that process. The contract that once empowered resistance is now under review. The clauses built from fear are losing their authority. The spiritual permission that allowed delay is being revoked. This is why some of you have sensed a strange tension recently. It feels like something is about to break. It feels like pressure is building. The pressure is not destruction. It is exposure. The hidden agreement cannot survive scrutiny from heaven. As you listen to this, recognize the confirmation in your own story. Think about the areas where progress felt blocked despite your effort. Reflect on the cycles that seemed to repeat no matter how determined you were to escape them. That was not because you lacked ability. It was not because you lacked favor. It was because something unseen was attempting to enforce terms over your life. But those terms are not eternal. They are being challenged. This is the moment where you align yourself with the cancellation. Do not stay silent when heaven is speaking on your behalf. If this message resonates with your spirit, engage with it. Like this video as a declaration that you agree with divine intervention. Share it with someone who hath been fighting silent battles, because they may also be under similar resistance. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to prophetic insights that strengthen your faith and sharpen your discernment. And in the comments, write a simple declaration of agreement. When you respond, you are not just interacting with content, you are participating in alignment. Because alignment matters. When heaven moves, it looks for cooperation. The contract thrived on unintentional agreement with fear. Now the reversal thrives on intentional agreement with truth. You are not destined to live under restriction. You are not assigned to cycles of defeat. The document that claimed authority over your delay is being confronted by higher authority. What makes this moment powerful is not only that the contract hath been seen, but that it is being challenged at its root. Exposure is the beginning of freedom. The enemy relied on secrecy. He relied on you never understanding why certain things felt heavy. But once light enters, control weakens. Once truth is spoken, deception loses grip. The hidden contract explained is simple. It was a strategic attempt to define your limits. But the explanation does not end in fear. It ends in revelation. Because what has been explained is now being dismantled. And as you move into the next part of this prophecy, you will witness the moment when exposure turns into action, and action turns into fire. Now the atmosphere shifts. What was hidden has been exposed, and exposure always demands action. This is the moment where the title becomes alive before your eyes. March 2nd Prophecy. I, Archangel Michael, have seen the contract the enemy signed against you. I'm burning it with holy fire right now. Open this to see your new life. This is not symbolic language meant to inspire imagination. This is a declaration of intervention. Archangel Michael, the great defender assigned to stand for the people of God, has stepped forward. In the spirit realm, there are ranks and responsibilities. Michael is not passive. He is not distant. He is a warrior of light, positioned in moments when destinies are contested. When the enemy believed that the contract signed against you would remain active, he underestimated heaven's oversight. The document may have been written with strategy, but it was not written with ultimate authority. And when Michael reviewed what had been drafted, he did not hesitate. He saw every clause designed to restrict your growth. He saw every accusation that tried to question your worth. He saw the sections that claim you would remain delayed, overlooked, and exhausted. He saw the words that predicted failure before you even had the chance to try. Nothing was hidden from his sight. And more importantly, nothing was beyond his assignment to confront. You must understand something powerful. Heaven does not act without purpose. For Michael to step into this situation means that your calling carries weight. Your future carries significance. There are assignments attached to your life that cannot be aborted by a contract written in darkness. The enemy targeted you because you are not ordinary. The resistance was intense because the impact of your obedience will be greater than you imagined. And now, the burning begins. Holy fire is not random destruction. It is divine purification. It is judgment against what is illegal and refinement for what is chosen. When the title declares, "I am burning it with holy fire right now," it signals immediate action. The document that once carried your name under restriction is being lifted into flames. The ink that attempted to seal your delay is dissolving. The signatures that authorize struggle are curling under heat. Imagine the sound of parchment crackling. Imagine the edges of the contract turning to ash. That is what is happening in the unseen realm. The authority behind those accusations is weakening with every spark. The power behind those clauses is collapsing. What was structured to stand for years is being undone in moments. There is something deeply personal about this act. Michael is not burning a general document. He is burning the contract that mentioned you. Your name, your destiny, your future. This is targeted cancellation. This is specific intervention. The fire is not symbolic comfort. It is active warfare on your behalf. As the flames rise, something else happens simultaneously. The grip of heaviness you have carried begins to loosen. The confusion that clouded your direction starts to clear. You may even feel an unexpected peace settling in. That peace is confirmation that the process has begun. Because when spiritual documents are destroyed, their effects begin to fade. But listen carefully. The burning is not only about removal. It is about restoration. When something is burned in holy fire, it makes room for a new decree. It clears space for a new narrative. It prepares the ground for a rewritten future. The enemy tried to define your story through limitation, but heaven is about to define it through authority. This is where your faith must align. Do not cling to the identity shaped by resistance. Do not define yourself by the seasons of delay. That version of your story was attached to a contract that no longer has power. You are stepping into a transition that will surprise even you. And I need to remind you of something important before we move forward. What comes next will reveal the depth of this reversal in ways you did not expect. You will be glad your spirit stayed attentive in this moment, because the unfolding revelation shifts everything you thought you understood. Now, before we continue, there is something sacred about responding during moments like this. Type "I receive divine cancellation" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 144 is now activated. When you declare it, you are not typing empty words. You are aligning your voice with heaven's action. You are agreeing with the burning. You are stepping into cooperation with divine fire. And as this contract turns to ash, remember, ashes are not the end of a story. In the hands of God, ashes become the soil of transformation. The enemy believed he had secured your limitation. But March 2nd marks the moment his strategy met holy fire. The warrior has stepped forward. The document is burning. The authority of darkness is collapsing. And what rises from these ashes will not resemble the season you are leaving behind. What unfolds next will not only confirm the cancellation, it will reveal the beginning of your new life. As this contract burns in holy fire, understand this: every message released here is a spark meant to set captives free. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a platform. You are fueling a harvest of souls. The Lord says, as you give, it shall be given back to you, pressed down and overflowing. And this is not distant scripture. It is a living promise spoken over you now. I feel led to say this clearly: when I give, I become part of the fire that sets others free. Your seed becomes oil for the lamp that keeps this prophetic light shining across nations. Do not miss the moment to turn revelation into action. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code may be flashing on your screen. Step into obedience. As you sow, may open heavens respond, and may blessing chase you without delay. Act now, and seal your agreement with the harvest. The flames have risen, and what is happening now is more than destruction. It is reversal. When holy fire touches something forged in darkness, it does not merely eliminate it. It transforms the entire spiritual atmosphere around it. The contract that once stood as a barrier against you is not only being reduced to ash, it is triggering a divine reaction that reaches far beyond a single document. Because when heaven burns what was illegal, it simultaneously activates what was delayed. Divine fire carries a dual purpose. It consumes what is corrupt, and it refines what is chosen. This means that while the contract signed against you is being destroyed, your true identity is being strengthened. You are not being burned. You are being purified. The lies are dissolving, but your calling is becoming clearer. The accusations are vanishing, but your authority is becoming sharper. This is what makes this moment so powerful. It is not simply about what you are losing. It is about what you are gaining. Think about the seasons where you felt reduced. Times when your confidence was shaken. Moments when you questioned whether you had misunderstood your purpose. Those doubts were connected to the pressure of that hidden agreement. It was designed to make you second-guess yourself. It was crafted to make you hesitate at the edge of opportunity. It aimed to drain your courage slowly until you accepted a smaller version of your destiny. But holy fire does not negotiate with intimidation. It eradicates it. As the flames complete their work, the spiritual ground beneath you begins to shift. The same place that once felt like quicksand now starts to feel stable. The same path that looked blocked begins to show openings. This is because divine reversal operates like a chain reaction. Once the legal ground of the enemy is removed, his influence weakens across multiple areas at once. You may notice subtle changes first, an unexpected sense of clarity, a renewed desire to pursue what you almost gave up on, a quiet confidence rising where fear once lived. Divine reversal also restores time. What felt wasted is not lost. What seemed delayed is not denied. The fire does something remarkable. It collapses the timeline of restriction. It removes the weight that slowed your progress and allows acceleration to begin. The enemy believed he could stretch your waiting season indefinitely. But heaven does not measure time the way darkness does. When reversal is declared, it can restore in a moment what seemed stagnant for years. There is another layer to this fire that you must understand. It does not only burn the contract, it sends a message. In the unseen realm, there is a recognition that intervention has taken place. The same forces that attempted to enforce limitation now see their authority revoked. The cancellation is visible. The flames are evidence. And that evidence creates hesitation among strategies that once targeted you boldly. What once approached you with confidence now retreats with uncertainty. This is why you may soon sense a difference in your spiritual battles. The intensity shifts. The pressure decreases. The fear tactics weaken. It is not because you suddenly became stronger on your own. It is because the legal document empowering those tactics has been destroyed. Without a contract, enforcement collapses. Without permission, resistance loses structure. But divine reversal goes even deeper. When something is burned in holy fire, it leaves behind ash. And ash, in the hands of God, is not waste. It is the foundation of renewal. Fields are often restored after fire because the ground becomes fertile again. In the same way, your life is becoming fertile for new growth. Ideas that felt impossible begin to feel reachable. Doors that seemed permanently shut begin to show signs of movement. Relationships that align with your calling begin to draw near. This is the turning point where you must shift your mindset. Do not continue living as if the contract still exists. Do not rehearse the language of defeat. Do not expect the same patterns to repeat. Divine reversal requires participation. When heaven removes restriction, you must step forward with courage. The fire has done its work. Now you prepare to walk differently. There will be evidence of this reversal. It may come in small confirmations at first. A conversation that opens a new opportunity. A breakthrough in an area that felt stubbornly closed. A sudden insight that helps you solve a long-standing problem. These are not coincidences. They are indicators that the atmosphere has changed. Remember, March 2nd is not just about the burning. It is about the beginning. The contract represented limitation. The fire represents liberation. And liberation always carries movement. You are not standing in the ashes of loss. You are standing in the ashes of victory. As we move forward, what unfolds next will reveal how this reversal impacts not only your circumstances, but your identity itself. Because when heaven rewrites a story, it does not stop at cancellation. It proceeds to restoration, authority, and elevation. And what is about to be revealed will show you that this fire was only the first sign of something much greater unfolding in your life. Now that the fire of divine reversal has begun its work, it is time to expose what was truly behind the resistance you experienced. Because when a contract is burned, the strategy that produced it must also be revealed. Darkness thrives in secrecy. It depends on confusion. It relies on you misdiagnosing the source of your struggle. But once exposure enters the picture, the strategy begins to collapse from within. The enemy's approach was not random chaos. It was calculated. It was layered. It was subtle. Instead of attacking you openly in ways you could easily recognize, the strategy was to infiltrate your thoughts, distort your perception, and influence your reactions. The contract was not just a document of accusation. It was a framework for influence. It attempted to guide how you saw yourself, how you interpreted delays, and how you responded to setbacks. One of the primary tools used against you was discouragement. Not dramatic, obvious despair, but slow erosion. A quiet whisper that said, "This will never change." A suggestion that maybe you should lower your expectations. A subtle pressure to accept less than what was promised to you. Over time, repeated disappointment can become internalized. And once internalized, it begins to shape decisions. You stop reaching as high. You stop asking as boldly. You stop believing as fiercely. Another strategy was isolation. The enemy understands that strength multiplies in connection. So the contract attempted to create misunderstandings, strained relationships, and emotional distance. It aimed to make you feel alone in your battles, as though no one truly understood the weight you carried. Isolation magnifies doubt. It amplifies fear. It creates an echo chamber where negative thoughts grow louder without challenge. Then there was distraction. Opportunities that looked urgent but led nowhere. Situations that consumed your energy without producing growth. Cycles of busyness that kept you occupied but not advancing. The enemy knew that if he could not completely stop you, he could attempt to redirect you. He could try to keep you moving, but in circles instead of forward. This is how time was stretched. This is how momentum was slowed. Fear also played a critical role. Not always fear of danger, but fear of failure. Fear of repeating past mistakes. Fear of stepping into something new and being disappointed again. That fear became a gatekeeper, standing between you and your next level. It whispered, "What if this doesn't work?" And that question was enough to make you hesitate. Hesitation, when repeated often enough, becomes stagnation. But here is what changes everything. Strategies lose power when they are recognized. Once you can name the pattern, you are no longer trapped inside it. Once you understand that discouragement was engineered, you stop personalizing it. Once you see that isolation was intentional, you begin seeking reconnection. Once you realize distraction was a tactic, you become more protective of your focus. The enemy's greatest mistake was underestimating heaven's timing. The contract relied on your continued ignorance. It depended on you believing that your struggles were simply part of your identity. But March 2nd marked exposure. And exposure dismantles manipulation. The very moment you become aware that resistance had structure, that delays had coordination, that discouragement had design, you regain authority. You are not weak for having felt weary. You are not incapable because you faced repeated obstacles. You were navigating an environment shaped by unseen opposition. But that opposition required legal ground. It required agreement. And now that the contract is burning, the ground beneath those strategies is dissolving. This means the tactics that once seemed effective will begin to fail. The whispers of doubt will feel less convincing. The urge to withdraw will feel less justified. The distractions that once captured your attention will appear hollow. You may even look back and wonder how certain patterns held you for so long. That is what happens when deception is exposed. There is another layer to this revelation. The enemy targeted specific areas of your life because they are connected to your assignment. The discouragement centered around your calling. The fear surrounded your next step. The isolation focused on relationships that would have strengthened you. The distraction pulled you away from growth opportunities. None of this was accidental. It was strategic opposition to significant purpose. But exposure shifts power. Once the strategy is revealed, you no longer fight blindly. You recognize the patterns and refuse to cooperate with them. You reject the language of defeat. You step out of isolation intentionally. You guard your focus fiercely. The enemy cannot enforce what no longer has agreement. The burning of the contract did not happen in isolation from this revelation. It happened alongside it. Fire and exposure worked together. As the document turned to ash, the strategies tied to it began unraveling. What was coordinated against you is now disorganized. What was structured to contain you is now scattered. And this is only the beginning of clarity. Because as we move forward, you will begin to see how heaven replaces every dismantled strategy with something greater. The enemy attempted to engineer limitation, but heaven is about to engineer acceleration. The exposure was necessary so that restoration could be precise. What comes next will reveal how your name is not only cleared from accusation, but elevated beyond what you expected. Now we move deeper into the courtroom of the Spirit. Because what is happening on March 2nd is not emotional symbolism. It is legal intervention. The burning of the contract was not an act of impulse. It was an act of authority. An authority in the spiritual realm operates through order, through decree, and through established jurisdiction. This is where you begin to understand that heaven is not reacting to darkness. Heaven is overruling it. In earthly systems, a contract holds power because it is recognized by a governing body. It can only be enforced if a higher authority permits it. The same principle applies in the unseen realm. The enemy may draft accusations. He may attempt to build a case. He may try to present evidence based on your past mistakes, your spoken fears, or your moments of doubt. But enforcement depends on jurisdiction, and jurisdiction belongs to God. When Archangel Michael steps forward, he does so under divine command. He does not operate independently. He operates as an extension of heavenly authority. That means the burning of the contract is not rebellion, it is judgment. It is the enforcement of a higher covenant that overrides every lesser agreement formed in weakness or deception. This is critical for you to grasp. The enemy's strategy depended on convincing you that his claim over your life was permanent. He wanted you to believe that because something had been written, it was unchangeable. But heaven's legal system is built on redemption, restoration, and mercy. The covenant over your life is not rooted in your lowest moment. It is rooted in divine intention. In the courtroom of the Spirit, accusations are presented. Evidence is cited. History is examined. But there is a difference between accusation and verdict. The enemy can accuse, but he cannot finalize judgment. Only God renders the final decision. And when the verdict is declared in your favor, no counter-argument can overturn it. March 2nd marks a verdict day. The contract that once attempted to define you has been brought before a higher throne. Every clause has been evaluated under truth. Every accusation hath been measured against divine promise. And what was discovered is this: the enemy overreached. He attempted to enforce limitation beyond his authority. He tried to claim territory that was never legally his. Heaven's legal authority operates on covenant and not condemnation. Where the enemy pointed to your past, heaven pointed to your purpose. Where the enemy highlighted failure, heaven highlighted growth. Where the enemy cited fear, heaven cited faith. The scales tipped not because you were flawless, but because you are covered by a covenant greater than any mistake. This is why the contract could be burned, because it lacked ultimate standing. It was built on manipulation, not truth. It was sustained by intimidation, not righteousness. Once brought into divine court, its weaknesses were exposed. Its arguments collapsed under scrutiny. Its enforcement power dissolved. Heaven's authority does more than cancel, it seals. When a verdict is rendered in your favor, it is stamped with divine finality. The enemy cannot reopen a case that has been closed by God. He cannot reintroduce a contract that has been reduced to ash under holy fire. The legal ground has shifted. The jurisdiction has been clarified. You may feel something changing within you even now. A subtle but steady confidence. A quiet assurance that something has settled. That is the effect of a resolved verdict. When a case has been decided, the tension lifts. The waiting ends. The uncertainty fades. But heaven's legal authority also establishes protection going forward. This is not just about undoing what was written. It is about reinforcing what is promised. When the contract was burned, it was not replaced with emptiness. It was replaced with covenant alignment. Your life is now standing under renewed covering. This means future accusations will encounter resistance. Future attempts to establish illegal agreements will face immediate challenge. The legal awareness in the spirit around your name has increased. The enemy hath been reminded that your destiny is not unguarded. There is something powerful about knowing that heaven has spoken on your behalf, and changes how you walk. It changes how you pray. It changes how you respond to opposition. Instead of reacting with fear, you respond with authority. Instead of questioning your worth, you remember the verdict. And here is what makes this even more profound. Heaven's legal authority does not operate slowly when the time for action arrives. What felt delayed was not denial, it was process. But once the verdict was issued, the enforcement of freedom began immediately. The burning was swift because the ruling was decisive. The contract is gone. The accusations have been dismissed. The authority that once seemed to stand against you has been overruled. And now you stand not as someone under trial, but as someone vindicated. As we move into the next revelation, you will begin to recognize signs in your life that confirm this verdict. Because when heaven rules in your favor, evidence follows. And those signs will show you that this was not imagination, it was intervention. When something shifts in the spiritual realm, it does not remain invisible forever. There are signs. There are indicators. There are subtle but undeniable changes that begin to surface in your daily life. The burning of the contract was not an isolated event sealed away in an unseen courtroom. It creates ripples. It produces evidence. And now, you are entering the phase where you begin to recognize that the fire truly has begun its work. One of the first signs is a change in atmosphere. You may not be able to explain it logically, but something feels lighter. Situations that once felt heavy do not press on you the same way. The constant tension that seemed to hover around certain areas of your life starts to fade. It is as if an invisible weight has been lifted from your shoulders. That is not coincidence. When a spiritual contract loses its power, the pressure it produced begins to dissolve. Another sign is clarity. Where confusion once clouded your decisions, you begin to see with sharper focus. Choices that felt complicated suddenly appear straightforward. Your actions that seemed hidden become visible. This clarity is not just mental, it is spiritual alignment. The enemy's strategy relied heavily on distortion, on keeping you uncertain about your next move. But once the contract is burned, distortion weakens. Truth rises more clearly in your thoughts. You may also notice a renewed sense of motivation. Projects you postponed start calling to you again. Dreams you quietly set aside begin to stir in your heart. The energy that once felt drained begins to return. This is a powerful indicator that restriction is loosening. The contract was designed to suppress forward movement. Now that it is gone, movement resumes naturally. Relationships may shift as well. Some connections that felt strained begin to soften. Conversations become easier. Misunderstandings clear up without excessive effort. At the same time, certain relationships that were draining or misaligned may quietly fade away. This is not loss. It is adjustment. When spiritual authority shifts, alignment follows. The people who are meant to walk with you into your next season begin to stand out more clearly. Peace is another unmistakable sign. Not the absence of challenges, but the presence of calm in the middle of them. Situations that would have triggered anxiety before now meet a steady response within you. That steady response is evidence that fear no longer has the same grip. The contract empowered fear as a tool of enforcement. Without that contract, fear struggles to maintain influence. You may also observe changes in opportunity. Doors that once seemed permanently shut begin to show small openings. A message arrives at the right time. An unexpected invitation appears. A delayed response finally comes through. These moments may seem ordinary on the surface, but they are indicators that stagnation is breaking. When legal restriction is removed in the spirit, pathways begin to clear in the natural. Another sign is increased discernment. You begin to recognize what drains you and what strengthens you more quickly. You sense when something is aligned and when it is not. This heightened awareness is protection. It prevents new unauthorized agreements from forming. It keeps you attentive to your thoughts, your words, and your choices. The experience of having a contract burn sharpens your spiritual sensitivity. There may even be emotional release. Tears that come unexpectedly. Laughter that feels fear. A sense of relief you did not know you were waiting for. These are signs that internal tension is breaking. The weight of prolonged resistance can lodge itself deep within your spirit. When that resistance is dismantled, release follows. But perhaps the most profound sign is hope returning with strength. Not fragile hope, not cautious optimism, but bold expectation. You begin to imagine your future differently. You allow yourself to think beyond survival. You start to picture success without immediately preparing for disappointment. That shift in imagination is evidence that limitation is no longer dictating your perspective. It is important to understand that these signs may unfold gradually. The burning was decisive, but the manifestation of freedom can appear in stages. Do not dismiss small changes. Do not overlook subtle improvements. Each sign is confirmation that the spiritual verdict is active. You are not waiting for freedom. It has already begun. You are not hoping for cancellation. It has already occurred. Now you are recognizing the evidence. As we continue, the next revelation will take this even further. Because it is not only about signs of burning, it is about your name being cleared completely and publicly in the Spirit. What is about to be revealed will show you that this shift is not temporary relief, but permanent restoration. The fire has burned. The verdict has been issued. The strategies have been exposed. Now we arrive at a moment that is even more personal. Your name is being cleared in the Spirit. This is not only about a contract reduced to ash. It is about reputation restored, identity reaffirmed, and destiny reestablished under divine authority. When the enemy drafted that contract, your name was central to it. It was not vague. It was not general. It was specific. The accusations were attached to you. The limitations were aimed at you. The predictions of failure attempted to follow you. In the unseen realm, your identity was being challenged. The goal was to attach labels to your future, labels of delay, labels of weakness, labels of unworthiness. But now that the contract has been burned, those labels have no legal ground to stand on. In the courtroom of heaven, your name has been spoken again, but this time, not in accusation. It has been spoken in affirmation. Where darkness attempted to define you by your past, heaven defines you by your purpose. Where fear attempted to reduce you to your mistakes, heaven calls you chosen. Where discouragement tried to write your story, heaven restores the original narrative. This is what it means for your name to be cleared. It means that the charges do not stick. It means that the voice of accusation has been silenced by higher authority. It means that when your future is considered in the Spirit, it is not viewed through the lens of what went wrong, but through the promise of what is still ahead. There is something powerful about a cleared name. It changes how you stand. It changes how you speak. It changes how you approach opportunities. When you know that there is no unresolved case against you, you walk differently. The subtle insecurity that once lingered begins to fade. The hesitation that once slowed your steps begins to dissolve. Confidence returns, not arrogance but assurance rooted in divine confirmation. You may begin to notice the shift internally. The inner critic that once echoed accusations grows quieter. The constant replaying of past failures loses intensity. The need to over-explain yourself to others diminishes. That is because the spiritual atmosphere around your identity has shifted. The verdict has been recorded. The fire has sealed it. Heaven is not only clearing your name, it is replacing accusation with favor. Favor is not random blessing. It is strategic alignment. It positions you in rooms you once felt unqualified to enter. It opens conversations that once felt out of reach. It draws recognition to your gifts that were previously overlooked. Favor flows where accusation once tried to block access. This is also the moment where restoration begins to manifest publicly. Situations that once painted you in the wrong light begin to correct themselves. Misunderstandings are resolved. Hidden truths surface. Your integrity becomes visible. What was whispered against you loses influence as truth rises to the surface. And here is something even deeper. When your name is cleared in the spirit, it affects generations. The enemy does not only target individuals, he attempts to shape legacies. But when your identity is restored, it interrupts patterns that could have extended beyond you. The burning of that contract does not just impact your present, it protects your future and the futures connected to you. This is why this moment carries weight. It is not a minor adjustment. It is a spiritual realignment of your identity. Heaven is publicly declaring that you are not defined by opposition. You are not permanently marked by delay. You are not legally bound to struggle. Pause for a moment and receive that truth. Type "My name is restored" in the comments. Blessing code 818 is now activated. As you declare it, you are agreeing with what heaven has already spoken. You are aligning your voice with the verdict. You are stepping into the restored identity that has been confirmed over you. And I want you to hold something in your heart right now. What is about to unfold next will reveal how this cleared identity transforms not only how you see yourself, but how doors begin to respond to you. Because when your name changes in the spirit, access changes in the natural. The shift is deeper than relief. It is transformation. You will be glad you stayed attentive in this moment, because what comes next unveils the doorway into your new life in a way you did not expect. As your name is being restored in the spirit, this message is traveling across nations, clearing chains from lives you may never see. When you release a super thanks, become a member, or sow through PayPal, you are planting seed into fertile ground where souls awaken and destinies realign. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and today that word is alive over you. I sense this deeply. When I give, I become part of heaven's restoration plan. Your seed becomes oil that keeps this prophetic fire burning, light that reaches someone standing in darkness right now. The PayPal link waits in the description, and the QR code may be before you. Do not delay obedience. As you sow, may rivers of provision flow back into your house. Step forward now and seal this restoration with action. Now we arrive at the phrase that has been echoing since the beginning. Open this to see your new life. The contract has been burned. The verdict has been issued. Your name has been cleared. But none of this is meant to leave you standing still. It is meant to bring you to a doorway. And this doorway is not symbolic imagination. It is a spiritual transition point. A door represents access. It represents movement from one space into another. It marks the boundary between an old environment and a new reality. For a long time, it may have felt like you were standing in front of a locked entrance. You could sense that more was available for you, yet something invisible blocked your progress. That invisible barrier was tied to the contract that has now been destroyed. And when the contract burned, the lock began to weaken. The new life being revealed is not merely about improved circumstances. It is about a transformed position. You are shifting from survival into authority. You are moving from reaction into intentional direction. The season where you were constantly responding to pressure is ending. The season where you initiate movement is beginning. Opening this door requires participation. Heaven has removed the legal obstacle, but stepping forward belongs to you. This is the moment where you choose to believe that the old limitations no longer define you. It is where you act differently because you understand the verdict has changed. It is where you stop preparing for disappointment and start preparing for opportunity. Your new life carries new rhythms. You will notice that you are less drawn to environments that once drained you. You will feel less tolerance for patterns that once felt normal. Growth will become more attractive than comfort. Progress will become more important than familiarity. These internal shifts are signs that you are approaching the doorway. There is also an acceleration attached to this transition. When restriction is removed, movement can happen quickly. Opportunities that seemed delayed may suddenly align. Connections that felt distant may reappear with clarity. Ideas that once felt premature may now feel perfectly timed. This acceleration is not chaos. It is restoration of lost momentum. However, doors require courage. Even when you know something better is ahead, stepping into the unknown can feel intimidating. The enemy once used fear to keep you hesitant. But fear has lost its legal support. The voice that once whispered, "Stay where you are," had been weakened. Now a new voice rises within you, one that says, "Step forward." This is where faith becomes active. Not passive belief, but decisive movement. You begin applying for the opportunity. You start the conversation. You return to the project. You rebuild the plan. You allow yourself to envision success without immediately bracing for loss. These actions are how you open the door. And as you approach this new life, remember that it was not created randomly. It was prepared. While the contract was being burned, preparation was unfolding. While accusations were being dismissed, new assignments were being positioned. You are not walking into emptiness. You are walking into alignment. This is also a moment of alignment for our community. If this message has stirred something within you, do not remain silent. Like this video as a declaration that you are ready to step through the door. Share it with someone who needs confirmation that their season of limitation is ending. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to prophetic guidance that strengthens your next steps. And in the comments, declare boldly that you are stepping into your new life. Engagement is not just interaction, it is agreement. Agreement matters at the doorway. The enemy once relied on your agreement with fear. Now heaven looks for your agreement with promise. When you respond in faith, you reinforce the verdict that has already been issued. There will be tangible evidence as you cross this threshold. New clarity in your decisions. Increased confidence in your voice. Unexpected favor in conversations. A sense that timing is finally cooperating with your effort. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations that you have moved beyond the ashes and into the beginning. But hear this clearly, what stands on the other side of this door is greater than what you imagine right now. The new life is not a minor upgrade. It is a shift in dimension. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how others respond to you. And changes what you expect from your future. Hold this truth close, because what unfolds next will reveal the specific assignment attached to this new life. And understanding that assignment will anchor you firmly in the season you are entering. As you step through the door into your new life, you quickly realize something profound. This transition is not only about freedom from the past. It is about responsibility for the future. When heaven removes restriction, it does so with purpose. When the contract was burned and your name was cleared, it was not simply to give you relief. It was to position you for assignment. Every new season carries instruction. The old contract attempted to keep you distracted, delayed, and diminished because your true assignment carries weight. Now that you have crossed the threshold, clarity about that assignment begins to surface. It may not arrive all at once, but you will feel it forming within you like a steady flame. Your new assignment is connected to growth. You are no longer called to think small. The limitations that once shaped your decisions are gone. You are being invited to expand your vision. Where you once planned cautiously, you will now plan strategically. Where you once hesitated to speak, you will now speak with confidence. There is a strengthening of voice that comes with restored authority. This assignment also involves influence. Not necessarily public recognition, but impact. The challenges you endured were not wasted, they trained you. The delays sharpened your discernment. The resistance deepened your resilience. Now those experiences become tools. You will recognize moments when your testimony carries weight for someone else. You will notice that your insight brings clarity to conversations. The very areas that once felt like weaknesses now become areas of authority. There is also a new mantle of responsibility over your mindset. The enemy once targeted your thoughts because he understood their power. In this new season, your thoughts must align with promise. You cannot carry the language of limitation into a life of expansion. You cannot continue rehearsing old doubts while standing under a new verdict. This assignment requires disciplined belief. It requires guarding your perspective. Your new life also carries new connections. There will be divine alignments, people who resonate with your direction, who understand your growth, who support your expansion. These connections may feel different from what you are used to. They may challenge you to rise higher. They may call you into accountability. Do not resist the shift. New assignments often come with new partnerships. Another element of your assignment is restoration of confidence. The enemy attempted to weaken your courage because boldness is necessary for what lies ahead. You will find yourself taking steps you once avoided. You will initiate conversations you once postponed. You will pursue opportunities you once felt unqualified for. This boldness is not arrogance. It is evidence of healed identity. There is also increased discernment in this season. You will sense more quickly what aligns and what does not. You will feel stronger boundaries forming around your time, your energy, and your focus. The old season allowed distraction to consume you. The new assignment requires precision. You will become more selective, more intentional, more aware. Do not be surprised if growth feels uncomfortable at times. Expansion stretches capacity. Responsibility demands maturity. But remember, you have already endured preparation through resistance. The challenges you survived were not random. They equipped you. You are stepping into this assignment prepared, even if you do not yet feel fully ready. There may also be moments where you look back at the old season and realize how much you have changed. Situations that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable. Conflicts that once shook you now seem small. This perspective shift confirms that the burning of the contract was not just external. It transformed you internally. Your new assignment will require consistency. Breakthrough is powerful, but sustainability requires discipline. You will need to nurture your spiritual strength. You will need to remain aware of your thoughts and words. You will need to stay aligned with truth even when circumstances fluctuate. This consistency anchors you in the new life you have entered. And understand this clearly, your assignment is not about perfection. It is about obedience. It is about showing up with courage. It is about responding to opportunity with faith instead of fear. The enemy once tried to convince you that you were not capable. But heaven would not have cleared your name and burned the contract if you were not ready. There is an elevation in this season, not necessarily in title but in perspective. You see further. You think differently. You move with intention. The shift is undeniable. As we move toward the final stages of this prophecy, you will see how March 2nd becomes more than a date. It becomes a marker, a dividing line between who you were and who you are becoming. And that revelation will seal everything that has been spoken. There are moments in life that feel ordinary while they are happening, but later you realize they divided your story into two distinct chapters. March 2nd is not an ordinary date. It is a spiritual marker, a line drawn in the unseen realm that separates the season of restriction from the season of release. It is the day the contract was burned, the day the accusations were silenced, the day heaven's verdict overruled the enemy's claim. And when you look back on your journey, you will recognize that this was the hinge upon which everything began to turn. A spiritual marker is not just about memory, it is about identity. It establishes a before and an after. Before March 2nd, there was resistance that felt organized. There were delays that felt persistent. There were questions that seemed unanswered. After March 2nd, there is clarity, cancellation, and movement. The contract that once empowered limitation hath been reduced to ash. The legal ground that once supported struggle hath been removed. And that shift transforms how you interpret everything that follows. Markers matter because they anchor truth. There will be days ahead when circumstances attempt to challenge what you have heard. There may be moments when progress feels slower than you expected. There may be situations that try to resemble old patterns. But when those moments arise, March 2nd stands as a reminder. It reminds you that the contract was not weakened, it was destroyed. It reminds you that the verdict was not partial, it was decisive. It reminds you that your name was not conditionally restored, it was fully cleared. This marker resets your timeline. For a long season, you may have measured time by hardship. You counted the months of waiting. You remembered the years of endurance. You marked anniversaries of disappointment. But March 2nd interrupts that measurement. It establishes a new beginning. It declares that what came before does not legally dictate what comes after. The weight of the past no longer has jurisdiction over your future. There is something deeply empowering about recognizing a reset. It gives you permission to release the expectation of struggle. It allows you to stop bracing for disappointment as though it were inevitable. It invites you to imagine your future without the shadow of limitation hanging over it. When a marker is established in the spirit, it authorizes a new narrative. You may already sense subtle differences unfolding. The way you approach decisions may feel steadier. The way you respond to pressure may feel calmer. The way you envision your future may feel brighter. These shifts are not emotional coincidences. They are evidence that a boundary has been crossed. You are no longer standing in the same spiritual territory you once occupied. March 2nd also serves as a memorial of divine intervention. When the enemy believed his strategy would continue without interruption, heaven stepped in. That intervention carries a message. You are seen. You are covered. You are defended. You are not navigating your destiny alone. The burning of the contract was proof that oversight exists over your life. The verdict was proof that accusation does not have the final word. This spiritual marker also signals acceleration. What once felt stalled begins to move. Opportunities that seemed distant draw nearer. Conversations that were delayed find resolution. Ideas that lingered in uncertainty begin to take shape. Acceleration does not mean chaos, it means alignment. It means that resistance is no longer absorbing your energy. It means that progress can now flow without obstruction. But for a marker to retain its power, it must be remembered intentionally. Do not let this day blend into routine memory. Anchor it in your spirit. When doubt attempts to resurface, recall the fire. When fear tries to whisper again, remember the verdict. When discouragement approaches, declare that the contract has already been burned. Memory becomes a weapon against regression. There is another layer to this marker. It transforms your self-perception. You are no longer someone attempting to escape limitation. You are someone who has stepped beyond it. That shift changes how you carry yourself. It influences how you speak. It shapes how you pursue opportunity. Confidence rooted in divine confirmation feels different than confidence rooted in personal effort. It is steadier. It is quieter. It is unshaken by minor fluctuations. As gratitude begins to replace constant warfare, you will notice an internal peace settling deeper within you. Instead of scanning for the next obstacle, you will start anticipating the next breakthrough. Instead of guarding yourself against disappointment, you will prepare yourself for growth. This emotional transition confirms that the marker is active. The enemy may attempt to test the edges of this shift, but he cannot reconstruct what has been reduced to ash. He cannot reestablish jurisdiction where it has been revoked. The legal ground has changed permanently. March 2nd stands as a spiritual monument declaring that change has occurred. And as we move toward the final declaration, understand this clearly. This marker is not the end of a story. It is the opening of a chapter. Everything that has been revealed, the burning, the verdict, the cleared name, the open door, converges here. March 2nd is the dividing line between who you were under restriction and who you are becoming under restoration. The final declaration will seal this truth in assurance, reminding you that what heaven has established cannot be undone. We have arrived at the sealing moment of this prophecy. March 2nd is no longer just a warning, it is a witness. The contract the enemy signed against you hath been seen. It has been reviewed. It hath been judged. And it has been burned with holy fire. What was written in darkness has turned to ash. What was enforced through intimidation has collapsed under divine authority. And now, heaven releases the final declaration. It cannot be restored. Listen carefully. Ashes cannot be reassembled into a contract. What has been consumed by holy fire cannot be reconstructed by accusation. The enemy may attempt to whisper reminders of your past, but he no longer has legal ground. He may attempt to imitate former resistance, but imitation is not authority. The verdict has already been issued. The burning has already occurred. The spiritual marker has already been established. You are not standing in uncertainty. You are standing in assurance. The final declaration over your life is this: you are released into your new chapter without legal opposition. You are stepping forward without the invisible chains that once restricted your progress. You are moving with clarity where confusion once hovered. You are walking with confidence where hesitation once lingered. This does not mean you will never face challenges again, but it does mean that those challenges will not carry the same structure of restriction. They will not be backed by a hidden contract. They will not be empowered by authorized delay. The difference is profound. You are no longer fighting from beneath accusation. You are advancing from a position of vindication. There is peace in this realization. A deep, steady peace that does not depend on circumstances aligning perfectly. It is the peace of knowing that heaven has intervened. It is the calm that comes from understanding that your name hath been spoken in affirmation, not condemnation. It is the quiet strength of someone who knows the case is closed. As this prophecy concludes, lift your perspective beyond what you have endured. See yourself not as someone who survived a difficult season, but as someone who crossed into a divinely protected future. The burning of the contract was not only an ending, it was a beginning. The fire did not leave emptiness, it prepared space for expansion. You may begin to notice doors opening in ways that feel almost effortless. You may sense a steadiness in your decisions that surprises you. You may experience favor that feels undeserved yet undeniable. Receive it without suspicion. Accept it without fear. This is the fruit of a cleared name and a sealed verdict. And when old thoughts attempt to revisit you, remind them of the fire. When memories of delay attempt to define you, remind them of the marker. When doubt tries to whisper that nothing has changed, declare that everything has changed. Type "I walk in my new life" in the comments. Blessing code 202 is now activated. Let the declaration seal your agreement with heaven. Let it be your response to the verdict. Let it mark your decision to walk forward boldly. Before we close completely, receive this assurance: you are covered. You are guided. You are guided. The same authority that burned the contract stands watch over your future. The same fire that consumed accusation refines your calling. The same verdict that cleared your name establishes your path. March 2nd will not fade into insignificance. It will stand as testimony. It will remind you that divine intervention is real. It will anchor your faith in moments when you need reassurance. It will serve as evidence that heaven moves at the appointed time. The contract is gone. The accusation is silenced. The door is open. The assignment is active. The marker is set. The verdict is final. Walk forward with peace. Walk forward with authority. Walk forward knowing that what was meant to restrict you has been permanently removed. This is your new life, and it begins now. As this final declaration settles over your spirit, remember that this prophetic fire is reaching hearts across the world right now. When you release a super thanks, join as a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, or even scan the QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a channel. You are igniting a harvest. The Lord declares, "Those who water others will themselves be watered," and this promise is alive over you in this moment. I sense this strongly. When I give, I partner with heaven's assignment. Your seed becomes oil for the lamp, fuel for the fire, and bread for souls who are desperate for light. Do not hesitate in obedience. This is a prophetic act, not a transaction. As you sow, may open heavens respond with multiplied provision and divine acceleration. Step forward now and seal this victory with action.